Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone XR and 11 are some of the less expensive iPhones that are currently available, and while they are by no means budget iPhones, I wanted to help you decide which one you should pick, whether that be the iPhone XR that I have on the left or the iPhone 11 that I have on the right. Now we're going to cover everything from price to colors to speed to cameras and everything else, and if you want to jump to any specific section, check the description so you can see the time codes and jump to what you'd like to see most. Now the first thing is the price. On the left here I have the red iPhone XR, and the XR starts at $599 and goes to $649, and these are prices in the United States. It may vary depending on where you live. Now the XR is available in 64 or 128 gigabytes of storage. It comes in white, black, blue, yellow, coral, and the red that I have here. Now when it comes to the iPhone 11, this starts at $699 and goes all the way to $849. It has 64, 128, or 256 gigabyte storage options. It comes in white, black, green, yellow, purple, and red. And I have the green color here, and the green color is a new color for this year. The red is pretty much identical to what we have on the XR. They might be slightly different shades, but they're very, very close. When it comes to the actual size and build of the phones, they're absolutely identical as far as size. They're made out of aluminum. They have an aluminum ring around the outside edge, and all buttons are in the exact same place. So on the right, you have your power sleep wake button. On the bottom, you have a lightning port, and you have a speaker and microphone. And then on the left-hand side, you have your volume buttons and your silent switch, and everything's identical in that way. You have the same size display, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And you also have the exact same weight. They come in at 6.84 ounces or 194 grams. Both are identical that way. Now on the back, that's the only way you can really tell the difference. They've moved the Apple logo in the newer phones to the middle and gotten rid of the word iPhone. And then obviously we have two cameras now instead of just one. Now, as far as the displays are concerned, they're absolutely identical. They're both 6.1-inch liquid retina displays. They have a resolution of 1792 by 828 with a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. That's exactly the same pixel density as an iPhone 8, for example. Now, the displays, while some people say they're 720p displays, they're actually in between 720p and 1080p, and you cannot see the pixels, and this is the best LCD display on the market. There's no difference between the two, and you can still watch 1080p YouTube videos. So if you go into YouTube, if we go to my 11 Pro Max video, and then we tap on the options for resolution, you'll see that we have 1080p 60 frames per second as an option. The phone will actually scale to that size, and it looks great. Most people will not notice a difference, especially if you're coming from an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus, and considering those phones, these displays will be just as good, if not better, as far as viewing angles, and they go bright in sunlight. No problem whatsoever between the two of them. So you'll be happy with those, and they're identical on both phones. There's no difference whatsoever. If I turn the brightness up, it's hard to tell with a camera like this, but you'll see it gets very, very bright. So let me bring those back down. And both of these phones have haptic touch. That means the display is not pressure sensitive. Apple has done away with 3D touch, so you get the same features. So if you hold and press on an icon, for example, it pops up at the same time. So you're not really seeing any difference between the devices. So I'll do the same here with weather. You get the idea. They both do the same thing when it comes to haptic touch. So you're not missing out between either of them. Now, when it comes to specs, there is a little bit of a difference. With the iPhone XR, we have the A12 Bionic processor that has 3 gigabytes of RAM and has the second generation neural engine. It's very, very fast, and I'll compare those in just a moment, but it's not slow. I don't think you're going to find a problem as far as scrolling or opening apps and things like that. In the iPhone 11, we have the newer A13 Bionic CPU with a third generation neural core, but an extra gigabyte of RAM, so 4 gigabytes of RAM. I really don't see a difference as far as the two of them. I think that extra RAM could be used for anything from storage to processing photos and things like that. Now, when it comes to opening apps, you're going to find they're very similar. In fact, I don't think I have really anything open on either of them now. If we open the music app, for example, you'll see they popped up basically at the same time. If we open the App Store, you should see about the same sort of speed as far as load times and things like that. You're really not going to see many differences when it comes to speed, maybe a half a second difference. The big difference when it comes to the processors really has to do with the cameras and processing images. So if we do something such as compress 4K video, which is actually a pretty intensive task that doesn't really show the speed of the phones, but shows that they can do equally good things. So let's go into the same movie that I created. We'll edit the movie. They have different names, but they both have a title on them. They're the exact same movie, and they're the exact same length. So they're 3 minutes and 43 seconds. So we'll go all the way to the end. You'll see they're exactly the same. And if I hit done on this movie, and then I share, and then I bring in an iPhone as a timer here, or a stopwatch rather, slide these over. Now let's go ahead and save the video. Now let's go ahead and export the project in 4K and see how quickly this actually can export. So we'll go ahead and hit 4K and start. And let's see how quickly they both export the exact same video. Now both exported incredibly fast, but you'll see that the iPhone XR was not far behind at all. And so this is a pretty intensive test when you're actually exporting 4K video. You're using a lot of the processing power, and the crazy thing is neither of the phones is even warm, which an iPhone compared to a MacBook should be getting a lot more warm, but if you're using a MacBook to export the same 4K video, the MacBook will spin up fans and everything else. So these are very powerful devices, and you'll see the difference is not that great when it comes to actual performance of an intense task. Now, like I said, the cameras is where it's going to be a little bit different. When you're actually processing images from a camera and it's doing all of the new processing that it can do on the new iPhone 11, that's where the power actually comes into play. And speaking of cameras, the back cameras on both of these are quite good, but on the XR we have a singular lens, and this is a 12 megapixel, just like we have in the iPhone 11, we'll talk about in a moment, but it's a 12 megapixel with a 1.8 aperture. We also have our flash here as well. So we have that single camera, and the single camera is quite good, but we cannot do portrait modes of anything other than people. It will not allow you to do that. You'll see it says no person detected, whereas the iPhone 11, because it has dual lenses, will let us do that. Now the iPhone 11 on the back has dual 12 megapixel sensors, but we have an ultra wide and a wide angle lens. So the ultra wide is an f2.4 lens, where the wide is an f1.8. And like I said, you can do portrait modes of objects and things like that. And then also you have night mode and deep fusion, which is coming out a little bit later, depending on when you're watching this. It could be out already. Now, deep fusion allows you to get better photos during indoor lighting where it's not great, but it's still not dark. And then you've got night mode, which works incredibly well in the dark. Now, when it comes to the forward-facing cameras, they are actually quite different. In fact, on the iPhone XR, we have an 8 megapixel forward-facing camera that can record in 1080p 60 as far as video is concerned. But on the iPhone 11, we have a new sensor that's 12 megapixels with an f2.2 lens that can do 4K 60. So if we go to video, we flip this around, you'll see we have the option of 4K 60 in the upper right. So I wanted to do a comparison of the back cameras and show you some of the differences between photo and video. Both do 4K 60p, but only the iPhone 11 will actually do HDR and kind of tone map everything when you're doing 4K 60p video. So let's take a look at the difference between the two. iPhone 11 has better stabilization than the iPhone XR. Since it has those dual cameras, you can actually move around and it just looks like it's more stable footage in general. So as I walk around, it's using both cameras to help stabilize the image. The iPhone 11 does have the ultra-wide lens, so you can get a better overall view of what you're looking at. You can zoom out if you'd like to. You can zoom in on both, but it's more of a digital zoom on both past 2x. Now we're zoomed in about 2x on both, so this should give you an idea of what it looks like on both devices when you're zoomed in. This is the forward-facing camera of the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11. You can see it looks a little bit different. I'm not zoomed in or zoomed out. It's just the different lens on both of these devices. So they do look a little bit different. You do get 4K on the iPhone 11. Now, the batteries in both of these phones are quite good. The iPhone XR was the best until the iPhone 11 came out as far as iPhones are concerned. So the iPhone 11 and 11 Pros get better, bigger batteries. The iPhone XR actually has a smaller 2,942 milliamp hour battery compared to the iPhone 11, which actually has a 3,110 milliamp hour battery. Now, the larger battery and the newer processor give it about 30 to 60 minutes of extra screen on time. The iPhone XR, you can expect about 7 hours of screen on time with normal usage. The iPhone 11, you can get 7.5 to 8 hours. It just depends on what you're doing. If you're a heavier user, you're going to get less. If you're a light user, you could get up to 2 days with the iPhone 11. So it just depends on how you're using it. Both support fast charging, but neither of them come with a fast charger in the box, so you'll actually have to purchase that separately if you want that. And both support wireless charging as well. Now, the speakers on both of them are identical. They both have a really good sound. You've got really well projected sound out of both sides. You've got a speaker on the top and on the bottom on both of them, and they're both clear. I would say the iPhone 11 Pros are definitely better, but the iPhone 11, you're really not going to see much of a difference between the XR and 11 as far as speakers are concerned. And that is really it between the two of them. In fact, if you don't care about the cameras and that 30 to 60 minutes of battery life, go with the iPhone XR because you're saving a little bit of money. But if you want the latest as far as cameras go, and it is a big leap when it comes to cameras, I would get the iPhone 11. You still get all of the Animoji and everything like you do if you're interested in that on the iPhone XR, but the iPhone 11 camera is just leaps above that of the iPhone XR. So I would take a look at that if you're interested in camera and photography. But let me know which one you would choose and why in the comments below. Are you sticking with the XR, or are you going to go to the 11 or 11 Pro, or maybe you're using an older phone? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.